So this is an absolute bomber driver, a 6-degree stealth plus, a super unforgiving driver setup. And this is a Rogue Max 10.5 degree, super stable, forgiving fairway finder. Well, that's how it would be perceived by most. But is that actually true? Let's find out. Oh my days. Just ripping this thing. Look at that. Almost 320 carry. It's definitely a bomber driver, isn't it? 340 yards. So welcome back down to Elite Performance Golf Studios. As you may or may not know, I'm Ross Walker, and my goal is to help inform you and grow your knowledge base when it comes to everything club fitting, to help you make better decisions moving forward. So today, I've got a very interesting driver test, kind of really focused around forgiveness. Like, what is forgiveness? I think it's a very generic kind of term that people just throw about. Oh, that's more forgiving than that driver, that's less forgiving. What does that actually mean, and how can that really differ from person to person? Because it can mean a whole spectrum of things. Now, this initial video concept was a bomber driver versus a fairway finder. So as I said in the intro, we've got in this hand an 8-degree stealth plus, actually set down to lower, so playing 6 degrees. I took a chip out of that driver there. Playing 6 degrees. It's just a kind of stock off-the-shelf Ventus Red 5S, a stock length. So it's basically as you would buy it off the shelf. The only difference being, obviously, I've knocked that down to lower. And then in this hand, we've got the Callaway Rogue ST Max 10.5 degree. And again, just a hazardous smoke IM1060 stiff, essentially. All stock length, so as you would buy off the shelf, or could possibly buy off the shelf as well. A lot of people would obviously straight away go 6-degree stealth. That is absolutely insane. That's going to go off the planet. Especially for me, I'm not a particularly straight driver of the ball. And then a 10.5-degree Rogue Max, I mean, you'd go, oh yeah, way more stable, way more forgiving, kind of really just going to help you find the fairway more often, right? Yeah, I think you're going to find this one quite interesting. Right, so stealth first. We're doing this test on hole 11, Willow Crest. It's a 607-yard par 5. We'll do a little flyover of that now. So it's a pretty straightaway par 5. Trees all the way down the left, so really a left miss is out. Down the right, you've got some trees in a bunker, but the right miss is obviously going to be better. So we're aiming down the right as I would in real life. It's an interesting hole to do this test on because it's a 600-yard par 5, so you want to get down there, but it's a tight fairway and there's a premium on accuracy. So interesting hole for the test. So first up, we've obviously got the stealth 6-degree, the bomber. Stock setup, Ventus Red 5S. So yeah, I mean, we're going to touch in on a lot of what forgiveness is, what it means, why a lot of people wouldn't even consider playing a 6-degree stealth. That's pretty good. I mean, it's just gone straight. Strike was decent. Good carry, good strike. I mean, yeah, wow, those numbers, those numbers are great. 14 launch, 2100 backspin, nice centered strike, 1 yard offline, 309 carry, 170 ball speed. Yeah, test over. So what exactly is forgiveness to you? I mean, it's obviously quite broad, but it'd be interesting in the comments below. Let me know what your idea of forgiveness is. Now, I think, you know, your average kind of weekend golfer in the clubhouse, chatting away, what does forgiveness actually mean to that person? Oh, my days. Just ripping this thing. Look at that. Almost 320 carry. Definitely a bomber driver, isn't it? 340 yards. Missed strike. Good old quad. We're getting 170 ball, 15 launch, 1900 spins. So it's probably marginally higher on the face, but it's still solid. 171 ball. Yeah, definitely a bomber. So, forgiveness. What are we talking about? What do we mean? So, from a club design perspective, there's two elements really. We're talking about mass, where it's positioned, and how that increases MOI, moment of inertia. So the more forgiving drivers, typically obviously much further, the weight's positioned much further back in the head. So what that does is it increases MOI, increases moment of inertia. So essentially, you would kind of say stability. So what that means is on the off-center hits, when you hit it out of the toe and it gears open, when you hit out of the heel and it gears closed, you would get less of that because it's more stable, therefore more forgiving. And secondly, we're talking the further the mass is dragged back, generally it creates higher launch, higher backspin condition, because wherever the CG is located in the head, as the head's coming into impact, you get lead deflection. So it's bending that way because the CG of the head is trying to align with the center axis of the shaft through impact as it's passing through impact. So that's why we get lead deflection. So the further back the mass is positioned, the more lead deflection technically we're going to get sometimes. And that essentially is what creates the higher launch, higher spin conditions. Now, why does that matter? So the more backspin that we get, typically the more stable the ball flight is going to be. So the ball can only spin on one axis. And obviously the axis that the ball is spinning on is what creates the curvature. So I'll flip in a little top right on the old quad. We can see the red line running through the ball. So that is the axis that the ball is spinning on. And obviously when that tilts, that's what creates the curvature. Now, the less backspin we have on the ball, the easier that axis is going to tilt, therefore the more curvature we're going to get when the face path gets too wide. So therefore, a very low spin ball conditions, while we kind of see them shearing out the air, A, there's no backspin to keep it in the air, and B, kind of that tilt, that axis is tilting easier, so therefore it's curving more. So that's a lot of info very quickly. Recap. Mass position further back, creating higher MOA, therefore more stability on off-center hits and more backspin, giving the ball flight a little bit more stability. So that is what really we're talking about from a marketing perspective when it comes to forgiveness. Now there's another element. So Stealth Plus, unforgiving driver, in theory, right? Further forward CG, which creates that lower spin condition. This is a lower spinning driver for the better player. So less forgiving head with that CG further forward at 6 degrees. So it's going to create a lower backspin condition. Actually, from my numbers we've seen there, it's actually very good. But what happens on a miss hit? How much spin does that drop? Is it less stable than that? Do I get punished more on a miss hit? Well, I'm sure those two first ones are typically not how I drive the ball. So I'm pretty sure sooner or later, we're going to get we're going to get a bit of a miss here, I'm sure. Again, I mean, that was actually a little, well, that was a decent strike, actually. I mean, yeah. It wasn't quite as good as the first two, but I mean, there you go. Get yourself a 6 degree Stealth Plus, people. So again, strike right out of the middle again, 14 knots, 2400 backspin, 169 ball speed. I mean, and it's right rough, but actually it's pretty straight. I'm aiming down the right. That's only 7-8 yards offline. So I'll get a miss hit in a minute. I'm sure of it. But again, the way that I deliver this now, obviously the 6 degree loft of this head statically is irrelevant, to be honest, if I'm delivering there. We had a dynamic loft, so that's the loft at impact, the loft I'm showing the ball, that's what really matters, of 19.6 degrees. And when I'm hitting 7.8 up, so we say 8 up with a loft, dynamic loft of 20 degrees, let's say, that kind of gives us a spin loft of about 12 degrees, which is not that bad. And considering I was slightly out to in, I think I probably hit slightly heely, slightly low heel, which is where a little bit more of the backspin came from as well. You know, that is actually creating like a decent ball flight for the way I'm delivering the club. So again, for me, I wouldn't game the 6 degree stealth, but according to this, I could. Now let's talk kind of closure rate ideas, how fast that face is going to be closing through impact. So I miss left, like my miss is left. I'd take all 3 of those drives every day of the week. It's in play, first of all, which is fantastic. I like in play. Now, where the mass is positioned in the head makes a big difference when it comes to closure rate. I just should absolutely put this in the bag, shouldn't I? It's like pretty much on the line, like 3 of 10 carry. I will get a bad one. Certainly will get a bad one. Right out the middle as well, literally 0-0. 144 efficiency. I mean, yeah. So, where the mass is positioned in the head can have a big effect on closure rate. So the further back that the mass is dragged, typically the more the face wants to close over through impact. The further forward the CG, the less the face wants to rotate through impact. So essentially what we're saying is lower spinning drivers typically are more fade bias due to the further forward CG. Now, this is going to be the interesting point when it comes to that. This I'm hitting pretty straight, which again is an unforgiving driver. But is it for my delivery? It's going to be interesting. All right, so that's been 4 really good drives. Like, this is still on lower, I promise you. Like, I hope that you can actually see that. It's still on 6 degrees, which is a bit mad, I know. So let's see if we can get you a miss hit. See if we can hit a bit of a baddie, maybe like high toe. That'd be a good place to hit it, see what happens. That's low heel. So pretty much the opposite of what I was trying to do. But it's 290 yards, not very far offline, I don't think. So slightly low heel. It's always worse than it looks on that diagram. 12.5 launch, 2200 backspin, 166 ball speed, 6 yards offline. Would you? Is that unforgiving? Pass. Again, it's a good miss for me. I miss left, typically speaking. Heel strikes are gonna curve right. Don't mind that. It's been offset very well by the gear effect. So the gear effect obviously closing the face slightly, but then the rotation of the ball when the face is gearing kind of gets that way, gets it starting left and curve it back. Fantastic strike miss for me. Don't mind that at all. It's in play. So we're going to get a bad one sooner or later. I'm a really rubbish driver of the ball, typically speaking. Yeah, I mean, that's still fine. I'm not sure what's going on today, I must say. Yeah. It's down the middle. A little bit heaty, but oh dear. Right. Let's move over to the max, and then I might come back to this later and see if we can get a couple of bad ones. Right, so jumping into the Rogue Max, 10.5, just set neutral, stated loft, kind of as it would off the shelf, hazardous smoke IM10, 66.0, kind of very stock setups, stock length, all that kind of stuff. So it'd be very interesting jumping from that into this. So now, mass much further back, obviously, higher MOI, therefore more forgiving. Yes. No doubt that the MOI is higher. No doubt about that whatsoever. Let's see what happens with this. Apparently I just hit that straight as well. I mean, it's gone about 14 miles in the air. Left side of the fairway, not right rough. So that's, yeah, I mean, it's good. I mean, interestingly, obviously, we've lost a hell of a lot of yardage. So typically I would find, obviously, if we look down at the top of this, the face to me sits quite close. Now, a lot of that has to do with loft. A little bit of that has to do with obviously being a max head, which I want it to be slightly drawn by still. Sits a little more closed. But for me, this sort of driver, normally speaking, it just goes left. Like, normally I can't stop it from going left. I must just be having an unspeakably good driver day, as this just doesn't normally happen. I mean, the ball flight's going to be very interesting. I've got an interesting story about that in a minute as well. Yeah, I don't know what's going on today, I'm not going to lie. Eight drives and not one out of play on a tight par 5. That is very unlike me. It's a little bit of a low heel strike, so definitely got away with that. But on the other hand, that faced path is actually pretty decent, so that's why I got away with it. Right. So I fitted a guy a little while ago, actually someone I used to play a lot of golf with at Frilford. I'm sure if he sees this, he'll know who he is. Not a bad thing, but it's the very typical going along with the marketing. The marketing, I'm not saying is wrong by any stretch of the imagination, but they have to market a product to a specific group of people. Now, obviously, this is marketed as a very forgiving driver, great, but this guy actually plays off 2, so he's a good player. And he came in and said, I've been doing loads of research, looked at it all, I want a Rogue Max 10.5. I said, all right, cool. Baselined his driver, set with the Max, which actually lost distance. I think he was playing an Epic Flash Sub-Zero, I think, from memory. So it's lost distance, which he was surprised about. I obviously wasn't. And then I actually ended up fitting him to an 8-degree TSI-3, which again, I think he may even turned down possibly. I can't remember. It was definitely an 8-degree TSI-3 head. And again, straight away, what? An 8-degree low spin driver. That is just nonsense. What are you talking about? So hit it. Go on. All drivers now are unbelievably forgiving, I think, in terms of the stability of the head on off-center strikes. Now, there are going to be certain heads that are better, like depending on your bias, depending on your miss. Like I said, for me, a heel strike is actually typically a good miss because I just see that little leaky fade, which I don't mind. But they're all very forgiving. TSI-3 is a great driver, and he actually went from carrying, I think it might have been total actually, 260 with this to like 290 or something. Obviously, lower lofted head, lower spin head design, lower launch, lower spin. He was someone who was a little bit wristy, kind of delivered a little bit too much dynamic loft, gave him a low spin driver, brought down launch spin, increased ball speed, way more distance. In my opinion, not less forgiving. So I think this test just, again, it'd be interesting to see the distance difference, of course, but it just shows that apparently I'm good with any driver. But that's just not true. That is not true. Oh dear, right, come on, let's get a bad one. I mean, it has turned over a bit more. Let's hit the path. Go on, hit that path. Get a little cheeky bounce. No, okay. It was a little bit low in the face, in all honesty. Which again, I mean, you'd say take the drive. I mean, it's in play. It wasn't a terrible drive. Yeah. I mean, actually straight on the dispersion map, I'm going to hit a few more. You can really see that right and left kind of difference starting to appear. I mean, that's 165 ball speed and it carried 267. Again, it's very similar to what we saw with my friend who wanted one of these. Just, yeah, it's fine, but you're missing out on about 30, 40 yards in a driver that's really not any less forgiving, in my opinion. It's a good drive again. I mean, it's definitely like left-sided of the fairway, that's very tight, but it's more left-sided for sure. But this test is really not going as planned, is it? Let's be honest. Well, actually, it is, because it kind of goes to show that, yeah, it's not that less forgiving, I don't think. 6-degree stealth versus 10.5-degree max. Again, this is going to be majorly a skill-based thing as well, of course. So we might need to get a slightly higher handicapper coming in and doing this. Yeah, it just got so high. Interestingly, like the strike has moved low in the head. I mean, that strike pattern is nowhere near striking this as well as the stealth, which again could well be the fact that the mass is further back, therefore it's kicking more, therefore it's going into more lead deflection, therefore it's bringing the strike down the face. Could be that. Sounds good, eh? It sounds good. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But it does feel like it's kicking more through impact, therefore, in theory, that would make sense, right? In theory. Doing decent, like, take it. Left side of the fairway. Definitely left-sided, more left-sided. Club speed, just low in the face. And it just goes to show again, it's consistent, isn't it? I was consistently more centered with the 6 degree stealth plus, which is very interesting. Right. I think we've kind of made my point, I think. I need to get a couple of mishits with both. So I'm going to keep going and show you some mishits, hopefully, at some point. Like, what is going on? I think at this rate, I'll be quitting to play on the tour. If only I didn't normally have 10 3-putts around. That might hinder me a bit, but who needs putting, eh? It's all about driving. Even now, like it's turned a little bit, but what a strike. That was a bit of a missed strike. Yeah, it was low heel. We're taking that because otherwise it's Friday night, I want to go home. Low heel, and it was on the lines. Let's quickly see the face to path on that. It's just, yeah, it's good. Okay, not really a bad swing, just a slight low heel strike. Okay, I'm kind of giving up on hitting a bad one with this because it's Friday night and I want to go home. I'll just show you here on this dispersion map. This is very, very unlike me. I mean, what is that about? What is that about? Right, we've given up with the road trying to hit a bad one. Yeah, good driver. So I'm going back to stealth. That last one I did hit was a bit of a miss hit, to be fair, with the Rogue, and it did go absolutely bolt straight. I mean, it was 14 mil low, 7 mil heel, not a good strike. Still very much bolt straight, which is great for a miss hit. So yes, forgiven. But the face to path was super, super good. So that's, again, probably why it went super straight also. Right, come on, stealth. Sorry, need to burp. Sorry. Oh my, what the hell? Like, I mean, it definitely is a more fade biased ball flight, isn't it? But it still just goes straight. Okay. Like I said, I'll get a miss hit in a sec. I'll get a miss hit. I just can't believe it. It's 19 shots in and they've all been good. Curse the commentator. That means there's a bad one coming. Come on. Stab it. Again, it was a little bit heely, I want to say. 300 carry. Good numbers. Yeah, 3 mil heel. Little heely. What is happening with my face to path? What? I can guarantee, right, like everyone has this. I can guarantee tomorrow I'd come in and it would be all over the shop. Like whatever feeling I've found today, to be honest, I just feel like I'm swinging, but guarantee tomorrow, gone. Absolutely gone. Just wouldn't be there. Or I'd go out and play. And again, just it wouldn't be there, would it? Let's be honest. Oh, there we go. There's a bad one. There's my miss. There is my miss. I'm in the trees. Finally. Now, why was that? The strike was actually good. So that's nothing to do with the driver. Like, absolutely nothing to do with the driver. If anything, the fact that the face is close to the path is obviously just me. I just flipped it a bit. Spin at 1600. I mean, yeah, the spin's obviously dropped. It's got the face close to the path, reduced the loft, reduced the spin, all those kind of things. But, so therefore, did it curve a bit more because it was lower spin? Yes, a little bit. But, caveat, if you deliver that swing with any club, you're in the left trees. So it's pretty irrelevant at that point, to be honest. And this is where the whole thing kind of comes in. I get a lot of people coming in saying they want to, you know, obviously increase kind of the dispersion, get better dispersion. We're going to be able to give you a club that is set up to help you do what you want to do, i.e. something that is slightly more draw bias that will increase closure rate a little bit. But ultimately, if you're swinging 8 across where it sits open, it's just not, it's not going to matter what driver you've got in your hand, to be honest. And this is where forgiveness just gets muddied, I think. Everything's, I hit it off the planet, I need a more forgiving driver. You probably just need a lesson first, and then get that a little bit better, and then we can help, you know, tie it in with a club that matches what you're trying to do. Oh, smoked. Stay in the fairway. Oh, that's fairway. I'm claiming that. I'm claiming that. Unreal, isn't it? I've set 20 shots and there's only been one out of play. Strike on this has been unreal, hasn't it? Well, I'm going to hit one more and then let's have a look at the data. Let's have a look at the data. Let's do it. Come on, let's give it a little bit more. See if we can find a bad strike. Oh, that was toey. It's curving a lot. Gonna hit the path. But I reckon I'd have a swing there. Yeah, I'd have a swing there. So again, toey, actually, again, bit of a miss strike. Spin dropped 1600, so it probably curved a little more than it maybe would have if that was spinning at, say, 22, 23. Maybe a little bit. So again, it's not the worst miss in the world, is it, considering I was going mad at it. Right, so I've looked at some data. Right, so there you go. I mean, I probably showed you a lot of shots there. It's probably a long video, as always. Sorry. But again, I feel like when you're trying to demonstrate stuff like that, it's quite important to see each shot and just see what's happening and why it's happening. We'll dive into the ball flight data, even though it's quite irrelevant to a certain degree, a 6-degree stealth plus versus 10.5-degree rogue max. Obviously, that's going to be a big difference. But as I said earlier with the story, I mean, a lot of people are just going to assume that a 10.5 max is what they should be playing because they played a 10.5 forever, so therefore it must be right, and the max is the forgiven one, and that's what we want, right? Yeah, but it could be losing you, what is that, 30 yards of carry. I mean, again, I wouldn't play a 6-degree stealth. It's a little bit extreme. I mean, typically I'd play the LTD XLS at 8 degrees. Still would be considered extreme by a few, but actually the numbers on average, I mean, you see 13 launch 2000 backspin was actually very good compared to 15.7 and 34. Not good for a driver. Don't like that. We can see ball speed jump up 4 miles an hour. Again, it's just going to be less delivered loft, creating more oomph. And yeah, 30 yards of carry. So we can obviously see the dispersion there. Callaway was very tight. It was very tight, I must say. Like, it didn't really deviate much at all. And that would have been a little bit to do with the spin. But it's great. Is a fairway finder? Yes. Do you want to lose 30 yards? No. You want to keep it in play, hit a 3-wood. If you want to hit driver, it's always going to be a little bit more of a risk, in my opinion, because it is the one we swing hardest, go out for, you know, we want to get it out there the furthest. It's going to be lower spin. It's going to be a bit more of a risk, but that's why we love golf. So yeah, front to back was really impressive, to be honest, with the Rogue. Front to back, I mean, actually, for the most part, probably saw, what, 2 bad ones, and I was obviously trying to do that. Which is probably dragging it back as well, to be fair. But for the most part, it was pretty good. And can I actually say that it was the club as unforgiving that made me hit it left? No, that was me. Did I get punished slightly more because the spin dropped slightly too low, so therefore it curved a little bit more? Yes, possibly. But in those scenarios with those deliveries, actually, there's an argument to say the closure rate would have been higher on the Callaway. Therefore, if I delivered it 4 degrees face closed with the Stealth, I might have delivered it 5 or 6 degrees face closed with the Callaway. So therefore, actually, I would have ended up as left, if not more left anyway. So again, that's tying back to, is that a forgiving club for me with my miss? Probably not. I'd probably be better off with a further forward CG, more fade bias head, because I'd rather miss right. So there's a lot of dimensions to this. Actually, we'll have a quick look at the club there as well, because why not? Because club data, actually efficiency was fairly similar, to be fair. I was a little bit more efficient with the Stealth, which is going to be due to that dynamic loft. I mean, you can see quite a big difference there. I mean, actually, considering we were 6 degrees to 10.5 degrees, which if my math is not mistaken, is 4.5 degrees statically different, we actually only saw 5.5 degrees different at impact. Again, considering it's obviously supposedly that mass is further back, therefore maybe we should be seeing a little bit more lead deflection, all those kind of ideas. Actually played fairly similar loft for loft. I mean, the launch and spin, certainly the spin, would have been coming from the fact that I was striking the Callaway low on the head consistently. Like consistently the strike was better with the Stealth, worse with the Callaway. Path, neutral, face, yeah, slightly left, but I mean they're fairly similar. Attack, similar. Club speed, swung the Stealth a bit faster, but it's only a mile an hour in it. Not much there apart from the dynamic loft, which is exactly what we'd expect, and the strike creating that excess spin. So yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a higgledy-piggledy video really, but again, quite an interesting one. So from my perspective, we've touched on the idea of forgiveness and what that might mean in terms of kind of on miss hits, that higher MOI. But if you've got a specific miss, just do not assume that because it's a more forgiving head, it's going to be better for your miss, because it just might not. There we go. Another one in the bank. Hope you stayed to the end. Please let me know what you thought in the comments. Let me know what you want to see next. Like and subscribe, all the good stuff. I'll see you in the next one.